What is up, you sexy beasts? You won't believe it. The CrossFit Games have made some changes to the season. Surely not, that's not what they do. Yes, there is another change to the season, but honestly, this change in my eyes are very, very positive. A long way to change, and I do have some questions about it, but CrossFit Games are finally utilizing or coming up with a worldwide ranking system that's not just based off the results from the most recent CrossFit Games. Athletes will now be scored and ranked based on their last 2 years worth of results from the Open, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the CrossFit Games. So a lot of data points there that will contribute to an athlete's worldwide ranking. CrossFit will then utilize that worldwide ranking system to determine the strength of the field in every region, to see if perhaps there are some regions that are stronger on the female side than other regions or stronger on the male side than the other regions. And then, this is the great part, they will allocate more spots to that region. So for years now, we have been yelling out loud over here in Australia, over in Oceania, that we need more spots, especially on the ladies' side. We deserve more spots. And that might be true, but now we're gonna be able to actually prove that and earn that, and it's super exciting. So obviously that raises the question, if they're gonna be allocating more spots to certain regions based on how strong the field is, where will those spots come from? Where are they gonna take them from? And so what CrossFit Games have done is they have reduced the amount of guaranteed spots in America and in Europe. So North America used to have 20 spots guaranteed at the CrossFit Games. They've reduced that to 10 guaranteed spots. So there's 10 spots taken from North America, and then Europe, they used to have 10 spots guaranteed. They now only have 5 spots guaranteed. So CrossFit have taken 5 spots from Europe. 10 from the US, 10 from Europe, that's 15. And they're getting rid of the last chance qualifier, which used to qualify 2 athletes. That makes for 17, floating qualifying spots. They can go to different regions based on their strength. Now, obviously, the US and Europe can obviously gain those back. They can earn those spots back, but they now have to prove it. They have to prove that they truly have the strongest field and they deserve those extra spots. And we, the other regions, we get to perhaps steal those spots away if our fields are indeed stronger. So if you think about it, Oceania, Asia, Africa, and South America, we don't really have anything to lose. Our minimum spots are the same as they've always been. So we only have spots to gain if we can prove that our field is stronger. So I think this is a great idea going forwards. I do have a few questions though. The first one is the last 2 years. Obviously athletes did not know that this ranking system will be in place. And so I know for a fact that CrossFit Games athletes hardly try during the Open. All they have to make is top 10%. A lot of them don't even try during the quarterfinals. All they have to make is the top 30 in their region. And so it hasn't really been a focus to perform well in the Open or the quarterfinals. So I guess the results are going to be slightly skewed if they're going to be using the last 2 years with the results, just because the athletes haven't been putting the focus and the effort on those stages of competition. And the question that I have is, should they? Should a CrossFit Games athlete be working really, really hard to perform well in the Open and to rank well in the Open, when really their ultimate goal is to do well at the CrossFit Games? So most of these athletes will try and peak for the semifinals and then again for the Games. They definitely don't want to be peaking for the Open and the quarterfinals. So this new system is going to encourage them to do better in the Open and the quarterfinals. And my question to you is that a good thing? Is that a good thing to ask of athletes to perform well at all these stages rather than cruise through those initial stages? Now going forwards, all the semi-final events will be programmed exactly the same, but the last couple of years, every semi-final has been programmed differently. So you can't really compare those because the workouts were very different from one semi-final to the next. So that's another variable that kind of will play into it if you look at the last 2 years worth of results. Some people are saying that 2 guaranteed spots for Asia and South America is too many and that they don't deserve 2 guaranteed spots. But I understand that CrossFit is trying to get representation from all around the world, especially those areas where CrossFit is still perhaps growing. And so I can see why they've allocated those 2 spots to South America and Asia. I guess how you feel about that depends on how much importance you place on getting the absolute best field to the CrossFit Games, regardless of the representation around the world, versus, hey, is it important to you to actually see some representation from these smaller regions that don't have the depth of field? I'm all for that. I like seeing representation from across the world, even if it means that perhaps there's 2 athletes there that maybe shouldn't be there. Now, the CrossFit Games are comparing this ranking system to tennis or golf, where players go and play tournaments throughout the year, and then how they do those tournaments will determine where they rank. I don't feel like it's exactly the same as that, just because the Open, the quarterfinals, the semis, they're on different levels to the CrossFit Games, for example. So my hope is that going forward, as I develop this process, they will start to include some major competitions like the Rogue Invitational or Wadapalooza or Dubai CrossFit Championships or Down Under. Maybe some of the major tournaments or major competitions throughout the year can also help to determine these rankings. And that will then eliminate the pressure for doing well during the Open and the quarterfinals, for example. I also heard Dave Eubanks, who's the senior manager of competition, say that the person who wins the CrossFit Games will be or needs to be the #1 ranked person on this worldwide ranking. Now, in tennis and golf, if you win a major tournament, you don't automatically become #1 in the world. If you did poorly throughout the season or you didn't play throughout the season, just because you won a major tournament doesn't mean that you become #1 in the world. So for example, let's say next year, Tia comes second at the CrossFit Games and someone else wins it. I don't believe that new winner needs to be #1 in the world after that. Obviously, Tia's record over the last 2 years should still place her as the #1 ranked person in the world. So that doesn't quite stack up in my mind. And then the last thing I was wondering about is, are they only going to be ranking the semi-final level athletes? So only the 30 men and 30 women that qualify out of every region, will only they be displayed on this worldwide leaderboard initially? Or will they use a larger pool? Will they use everyone who did the quarterfinals? You know, the top 10% in every region. It sounds like, and I think they'll probably start with the semi-final qualifiers, and then, you know, as the years progress, they'll expand their leaderboard to include a wider pool of people, hopefully everyone eventually. One of the best things about this new system is that they'll be ranking the men and women separately, meaning that within a certain region, you could get more qualifying spots for the females, but not the men, and vice versa. So overall, I'm very excited about this move. I think it's a great decision, and obviously there's a bunch of things missing that we don't yet know. And the CrossFit Games team have been very open about that they'll release more details on how the scoring system actually comes to be before the Open kicks off. So that's gonna be interesting to see how they actually make up the numbers to then rank people. So my questions for you are, #1, what do you think overall of the worldwide ranking system? #2, is it fair to ask athletes to put a big emphasis on their performance in the Open and the quarterfinals? Do you think that 2 guaranteed spots for Asia and South America, is that too many? And lastly, do you think that the 10 spots out of North America and the 5 spots out of Europe, do you think that they will just earn those spots back? Or do you think that maybe some of those spots might be stolen by some of the other regions? Do you think that the Oceania region, especially on the ladies' side, do you think we actually have a strong enough field to win a couple more qualifying spots? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. It's very exciting times, and I'm looking forward to it unfolding over the coming months. Team, have a fantastic weekend. Stay sexy, keep roaring love, and I'll chat to you down in the comments. Mwah.